Do you find yourself currently in a relationship that you are starting to consider as toxic or narcissistic? You want to leave, you know it's not right, you know it's not healthy for you, you feel drained, but you are second guessing, is this the right decision to make? Or maybe you're someone that has already left the relationship or they left you. The relationship has ended for whatever reason. You know it's toxic, you know that you feel broken, you don't feel good, you know you're not being treated well, and you're still second guessing, did I make a mistake to agree for this relationship to end? Am I going to miss out on something? Is it the right decision? Overall, you were second guessing yourself. If that's the case, this episode is for you. Stick around and let's answer that question. Not only answer why you're second guessing yourself, but let's try to figure out, how do we shift that? How do we stop the self-doubt and get a little bit more clarity, so you can decide how to take control over your life and how to move forward, what you need to do next. Let's go. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Naila Abdullah. I'm a mental health therapist turned toxic relationship coach. And after overcoming my own personal experiences with toxic romantic and family relationships, I now work with women like you, helping you to heal, to rebuild yourself after the heavy impact of a toxic or narcissistic relationship. And in my opinion, most importantly, breaking the cycle and making sure that you don't fall back into another toxic relationship. So if that sounds like what you need, stick around and let's get into this topic. The first reason I want you to consider of why you are second guessing yourself to leave a toxic relationship is that you are afraid of what I call the short-term pain, right? No relationship, no breakup from a relationship is easy, right? And when you are dealing with someone that is toxic or narcissistic, it makes it 10 times harder to deal with the relationship, for sure, as well as breaking up, as well as the aftermath of the relationship. And you know that that's going to cause some pain, it's going to cause some turmoil. Maybe there's some underlying fear about how they're going to respond when the relationship technically ends. And I say technical because a relationship ending in a toxic or narcissistic relationship is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a ton of aftermath that comes along with the breakup of a toxic or narcissistic relationship. It is not a normal breakup. So that is why we're here today. That is why I offer the support that I offer, is because I understand that there's a big impact also with the aftermath of the relationship ending. There's a lot of work, a lot of self-healing, a lot of clarity that needs to happen. There's a lot of nurturing that also needs to happen. And that's sometimes, just the idea of that sometimes may scare people to leave the relationship and to start this new chapter, is because you may be afraid of the pain. Now, I call it short-term pain because in my philosophy, the short-term pain can lead to long-term peace, right? Let me say that again. The short-term pain can lead to long-term peace. And I believe people want the peace, but they're afraid of the short-term pain. And I get it. It is a painful situation. But if you're able to look further into the future and understand that you do have the strength, you do have the capacity to manage your short-term pain, you deserve that life of the long-term peace. You deserve it. So the next question is, okay, Naila, if that is the reason, then what do I do about it? Good question, because I'm never here to just talk about the problems. We are solution focused, right? So the solution is, and this may sound simple, but it's all a mental shift. Prepare for impact. Prepare for impact. Prepare that, yes, it is going to be hard. Yes, you are going to have nights of crying. You may lose your appetite. Your appetite might increase. You might gain some weight, whatever it is, and prepare for impact. And I'm not saying that from a negative standpoint, but we have to accept as human beings that some things will be difficult. Some things will be difficult, but what's the alternative? Sticking around and being in limbo in a toxic relationship that's breaking you, right? You may not have physical bruises, but when you are connected to someone who is toxic, someone who is narcissistic, someone who is manipulative, when you are connected to that person in any capacity, they are chipping away at you, right? It's like taking a little chisel and constantly chipping away, at a tree, right? The tree is big, it's strong, but at some point, that gradual chipping away that tree will break, right? And that is what happens in psychological and emotionally abusive relationships, is that you don't see it as a big deal because it's little small situations, right? It's little small attacks on your self-esteem, on your self-respect, right? But it does break you. It does break you eventually. It does chip away at you. And the longer you stay connected there, the more the more damage that will be done. So the solution is, if you have the fear of the short-term pain, is to prepare for impact. Prepare psychologically. Know that it's going to be challenging, but also remind yourself that you're not the first person nor the last person. I myself went through it. Women that I've worked with and have talked to. You're not the first or the Unfortunately, you're not the last. I wish we were the last group of women to go through that. But unfortunately, these people are roaming the streets. They're out there. They are coming after people. And the best you can do is to be able to detach, to heal, to rebuild yourself. And not just rebuilding and healing is not just about feeling better, but it's about making sure that you change certain parts of yourself to know how to identify them and to make sure that you're able to protect yourself from ever falling back into a situation like that again. Now, we're talking about mental shifts, right? Mentally preparing for impact, mentally preparing that it's going to be challenging. Some of the things that you can do from a practical standpoint is create a healthy support system, right? That means looking at some friends that you have, family members, also outside groups, right? Membership groups, coaching groups, whatever it is. There's so many things out there that you can join to get support. And let me say this about support. Support is not necessarily who you want to be your support. Sometimes you may have people in your life that you love, that you care about, that may love you and care about you, but they may not have the capacity to support you in the way that you need to be supported in this particular situation. Because again, this is not a normal breakup. A breakup from a toxic or narcissistic person is not a normal breakup. It has a whole different element and healing process and ways that you need to protect yourself from the ex. So not everyone understands that and not everyone can support you in that way, but start looking at who is safe, right? Who is safe for me to be around? Who is safe for me to go on my healing journey with me, and in what capacity, right? The other thing that you want to do is prepare other parts of your life. So if you are intertwined in this relationship financially, housing wise, whatever it is, start looking at, okay, how do I need to prepare myself? Because if those things are not in order, it's going to cause additional stress and it's going to cause more pain, right? Because when we're stressed, we're in pain, we can't function. So if you are able to get some of those things in order, it will make it a little bit easier for you. But overall, mentally prepare for impact. No, it is going to be challenging, but just because something is challenging doesn't mean it can't be done, right? Our brain is wired as human beings to keep us comfortable, to make us feel safe, right? Safe means comfortable, right? So sometimes when things are uncomfortable, we interpret that as, I can't do that. That's just too much. You can. You are strong. They picked you because you are strong. That's a whole nother topic. But toxic and narcissistic people pick strong people, right? They pick things in you that they don't have within themselves. So you do have the strength. It is going to hurt. You may cry for the next few weeks, whatever it is, but do your part to prepare yourself, surround yourself with healthy people, with whole people, people who get it. Prepare yourself financially, housing wise, whatever it is, get those things in order. And it doesn't have to be perfect in order for you to detach from the person, but you need to make sure that you have your basic needs met, right? You have a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food in your stomach. If you're working, you're able to get to work, right? And you have someone or a small group of people that is there that you can reach out to when you need be. You got this. Another reason you may be second guessing your decision to leave the toxic relationship is because of familiarity, and you don't want change. That is completely normal. As human beings, we don't typically like change. The average person does not like change. We like to stay in areas that feel comfortable for us, that is familiar to us. I remember my past relationship. I was in that relationship for 10 years total. And stability was very, very important to me. And I didn't realize where it was coming from before, and I'll get into that in a minute. But overall, I did not want change, right? And when I started my healing journey, which is why it's so important to go through these steps of really understanding who you are and the root of it, where the certain mindsets come from, which determines the decisions that we make in our life. When I went through that in my own healing journey, I realized that because I had some instability in my childhood, my mom had passed at a young age. I started moving a lot, living with different people. I was taken care of, but I was bouncing around, right? And I realized that stability was so important to me because I never wanted to experience that again, right? The first few years of my life was very stable. But when I started moving to different countries and living with different people, I realized like this is not what I want. So I was always very adamant about making sure that I created a stable home for myself. So when I was able to process that for myself, I realized that I was sacrificing, my self-respect, my dignity, my safety, my mental health, because I was so fixated on not having change, right? Of having stability in my life. Even though this relationship I knew was toxic, I was not being treated well, I was being emotionally neglected, verbally abused, right? I was like, I'm going to make it work because I don't want to change. I don't want to start a new relationship, right? It's what I know, it's what's familiar. I can fix it. And that is something that keeps people second guessing, like, do I really want to stop this or interrupt this stability, right? And it's stability, but it's a toxic stability, right? So we have to get comfortable with change in order to live the life that we are supposed to live, that we deserve to live. We have to remember that in order to grow, right? And I'm a firm believer, we're not here just to exist. I know society teaches us to just exist, right? We're born, we grow up, we go to school, we get a job, we work until a certain age, then we die, and we take a vacation once in a blue, right? Like just robots, like that's just existing, right? There's so much more to that, to life than just that, script that society gives us, right? So in order to thrive in life and not just exist, we have to grow. We have to grow in all areas of our lives. And that's not always easy, but we can't grow if we don't make changes. And sometimes those changes means that we have to detach from what's familiar to us, right? If we recognize something is not working for the life that we want or who we want to be, or it's not healthy for us, we have to be willing to be uncomfortable and to detach from familiarity. Familiarity will keep you stuck, okay? Familiarity will keep you stuck. So start to make that mental shift, that mindset shift, and it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes we have to we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over. We have to immerse ourselves in these messages to keep reminding ourselves. We have to feed ourselves daily these new messages in order to change our mindset that I may be uncomfortable. I may be stepping into something that is not familiar to me. I may not know what's coming next, but I know this has to change and I will survive it, right? We have to be okay with being uncomfortable. We have to be okay with making decisions that might make us cry, because sometimes hard decisions leads to long-term peace, leads to prosperity, leads to just a life of abundance that we all deserve. So we have to be comfortable with detaching from familiarity and knowing that it's temporary. It's temporary. It doesn't have to be permanent. That discomfort doesn't have to be permanent. We have the authority over our lives and the power to create a new environment for ourselves. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some discomfort, but it's definitely possible, and it's what you deserve. The third reason that you may be second guessing your decision to leave the toxic relationship is that it's become your identity and you don't want to lose that identity. We live in a society that puts a lot of pressure, I think especially on women, to not be single, right? If you are a certain age, and you've been in a relationship for a long time too, and then suddenly it ends, but nothing major happened, nothing big happened, why did you end the relationship? At least to the outside world, right? People can become very judgmental. And one of the reasons you may be second guessing your decision is because, one, you don't want to lose your identity, that label that you have, that you are a girlfriend, a fiance, or a wife. And you are afraid of how people are going to now judge you, how they're going to label you. Are you the single girl? Are you the girl that ended that relationship? Now you're alone, right? You're afraid of that, of how it looks to the outside world, and adopting that new identity. One of the patterns that I notice with toxic and narcissistic relationships is that most of the time they are long-term relationships. They're at least a year, but usually several years. And even in my own relationship, like I said, I was there for 10 years. And because, again, stability was so important to me, I had the identity as a girlfriend, then fiance, then wife, right? I did not want to just suddenly, abruptly change that, right? In my workplace and people who knew me for years, it's going to look like, well, what happened after all these years? You know, you made all these steps and you moved and you did this and you did that. Like, that can feel embarrassing, right? And that is one of the reasons people remain stuck. They don't want to feel judged. They don't want to feel embarrassed. Now, you may be a strong woman and say, I don't care what people think. And that may be true. But one of the things I realized in working in this area of toxic relationship healing is that sometimes as women, we can be very strong in other areas, but when it comes to the relationships, our rules change. Our rules change. And it's somewhat normal because relationships is a whole nother field, but we still have to maintain some, what is the word? We still have to maintain some foundation for how we function with others and in the world, right? So the solution to this is we need to release the need for other people's approval, for how they label us, for how they judge us, the fact that they may not understand the reason that you no longer choose to participate in that relationship. Be okay with people never knowing the truth or accepting the truth. It is not your job to convince everyone that you made the right decision. The right people will understand. And there may be people that love you dearly, that are close to you, could be parents, siblings, close friends, whatever it is. They too may not understand you. Some will, some may, and some may not. So the mindset shift that needs to be made there is, I'm okay with people not understanding me. I'm okay with people, identifying me now as a single woman or, whatever it is. I'm okay with the new labels. They don't define you. They don't define you. And guess what? Everybody has their own stuff going on anyway. You just may not know. They actually don't even have the right to judge you, right? But that's a whole nother topic. People are going to judge. People are going to have their opinions. But be okay. Release the need for them to understand you. Release the need for you to hold on to an identity, because the reality is it's a fake identity anyway. Girlfriend, fiance, wife in this relationship, if this is a toxic situation, which it must be because that's why you're watching this now, you don't want that label anyway, because the real definition of a girlfriend, of a wife, of a fiance, right, is not someone who is enduring emotional and psychological abuse, right? So why live a lie? Why live a lie? Be okay with releasing that identity. I remember when I got engaged, it was so important to me. And it wasn't until I went through my healing journey, I realized that the proposal was so fake, and rushed, and it was just a trap, just to hold on to me. There was no love, and not that I'm expecting balloons and anything, but it didn't feel genuine. But guess what? I was so fixated on the identity and the label of being someone's fiance, right? Because I was thinking people are going to look at me like, Naila, you've been in this relationship so long, now you're finished, your school, you're starting your career, because that was one of my rules. I did not want to be anyone's wife or fiance until I finished all of my academic degrees were completed, but then I started feeling pressured, like, well, people are going to judge me that you're doing so well in all these other areas of your life, but you're still the girlfriend, right? That was a big mistake. I didn't know better. Now I do, right? But that is something that I had to shift, that I do not need to live up to other people's expectations of me, and neither do you. You set your own rules. Don't worry about their labels and how they identify you. Release that. If this episode was helpful for you, I know that you are going to love what I'm about to tell you next. On October 4th, Wednesday, October 4th, I am opening up my inner circle. That is a membership group for people that are coming out of a toxic or narcissistic relationship, whether you're just coming out of it or you've been out of it a while and you are looking for that safe space, that group of women who gets it, right? You are looking for guidance, you are looking for support. This inner circle is going to give you classes on ways to heal after the impact of a toxic or narcissistic relationship. We're going to have group coaching calls. And if you are the first 10 founding members of this group, right? It's open right now, but for the first 10 people to join the group, you're going to also get a gift of a free 30-minute one-on-one session with me to just launch things off. So if this episode was helpful for you and you are looking for that safe space of women who get it, another bonus is that this group will allow you to have access to me. So this group will allow you to text or video any questions you may have, where I can come back to you and respond. So this will be your network. This will be your network. In addition, if you have other family and friends, but this will be your safe space to help you to get through the aftermath of a toxic and narcissistic relationship. I remember when I was going through my breakup, I had to then deal with narcissistic family members that I knew something was off with them. I didn't fully get it then, but I really felt like that period of my life was I was just getting hit from both sides, right? And again, when you are coming out of a toxic and narcissistic relationship, that is just a tip of the iceberg, because as you were starting to heal and see things, you also start to see other people differently, right? So a lot of times you're not just losing one relationship, but there's some other relationships that also kind of, if you don't lose them, they get shaken up a little bit. So there's different things that happen, and it is so helpful to be able to have a safe space to just process all of that with and have that support to get through it a little bit more smoothly. So anyway, if that is something that you are looking for, again, October 4th, it will be available. Go ahead and click the link in the description box below to get more information on my inner circle to join. And hopefully you can be one of those 10 founding members to also get access to that free 30-minute coaching session. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode, and I will see you in the next one.